Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back again, everyone, to the Maverick News Channel. False start again tonight, half an hour late. Hopefully, we're firing on all of the channels now. Let me just check over on our Rumble channels to see if we are indeed running, especially on the main channel where we have the majority of viewers, I think. And it looks like we're running. We're back in business. Okay. Sorry about that. That's 2 nights in a row. We've had some technical problems. I do not know why, but we are flying again. So tonight, Donald Trump embarrasses himself in a diplomatic disaster, a meeting with African leaders. We'll also talk about wildfires in Canada, concerns on the U.S. side of the border about the smoke. We'll talk about Superman as well. Is he woke? Are you going to go see the movie? There's a lot of controversy surrounding the new Superman flick. And we have a lot to dig into on the other side of this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
I just happened to look in the chat as I was checking the feeds, and Lindy says she hit the thumbs down by accident. Yeah, she's asking how to get rid of that. If you just hit the thumbs down again, it takes your thumbs down away. It works the same way with the thumbs up. And if you want to hit the thumbs down, as I understand it, if you go over to Rumble channel 2, that's where most of the people who really hate my guts are. So that's the hater hangout. Right now, over on Rumble channel 2, you'll find all the people using their right to free speech to complain that they don't have any free speech around here. I guess it's been going on pretty hot and heavy over there night after night. I try not to look because it's just not worth my time. But I think that's the hater channel. So you can go hang out with the haters as they attack. Anyway, wow, what a strange time we live in. Donald Trump tonight embarrassing himself in this meeting with leaders from Africa. He had a lunch at the White House hosting presidents from 5 different African nations, mostly there to talk about trade. And then he singled out the president of Liberia. And this is where everything just went south. Donald Trump, his ignorance on full display as he tells the president of Liberia that he speaks very good English. See, the problem with that is English is the official language of Liberia.
And we believe in your policy of making America great again, and we also go a long way with you in your diplomacy that has to do with economic development and commercial friendship. Liberia has a lot of minerals, and one of the things we ask as good friends for a long time is the opportunity to do a survey of our minerals. Mm-hmm. And also we are committed to peace, and we've been very lucky within our region. We had a country that have had a series of democratic elections, and our country had been cooling down. And also we want to encourage American involvement in the investment in Liberia. Yeah. We'd like to see that happen. We want to work with the United States in peace and security within the region, because we are committed to that. And we just want to thank you so much for this opportunity.
Well, thank you. And such good English, such beautiful. Where did you learn to speak so beautifully? Where were you educated? Where?
Yes, sir.
In Liberia.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's very interesting. It's beautiful English.
Sure.
I have people at this table can't speak nearly as well,
Very
and
good, sir.
they come from.
So then the audio kind of cuts out there, which is probably a good thing for Trump, because he was just digging a hole deeper for himself the more he opened his mouth. Such good English. And even just asking him, where were you educated? That in itself is somewhat condescending, because it almost has this layer of, it's amazing that you actually went to school. This is honestly, this is prejudice and bigotry on display. And Trump just doesn't even realize it. But I'll tell you, the president of Liberia came through all of that looking good and very eloquent, classy, a gentleman. I mean, this was supposed to be a compliment, but it's drawing sharp criticism online for its obvious, what Trump obvious in his ignorance of Liberia's history. English has been the official language of Liberia since the 1820s. And Trump is clearly not aware. He's not being briefed. He's just not that well educated, obviously. And certainly the president of the United States should know better. He should know more. That's why some people say he's unfit for the office. On full display. And then the news conference went on. Of course, Trump dominating the news cycle with everything that he's saying again today in this news conference. Asked during the news conference about these charges that are being pursued regarding people like Comey and other political adversaries of Donald Trump's.
Peter?
Thank you, President Trump. James Comey and John Brennan, now under criminal investigation related to the Trump-Russia probe. Do you want to see these two guys behind bars?
Well, I know nothing about it other than what I read today, but I will tell you, I think they're very dishonest people. I think they're crooked as hell, and maybe they have to pay a price for that. I believe they are truly bad people and dishonest people. So whatever happens, happens.
And now, a few weeks after the strikes that you ordered on the nuclear facilities in Iran, there is an Iranian official who says you, President Trump, have done something that he can no longer sunbathe in Mar-a-Lago. As you lie there with your stomach to the sun, a small drone might hit you in the navel. It's very simple. Do you think that's a real threat? And when is the last time you went sunbathing anyway?
It's been a long time. It's been a long time. I don't know. Maybe I was around 7 or so. I'm not too big into it. Yeah, I guess it's a threat. I'm not sure it's a threat, actually, but perhaps it is.
And on one other subject, two Democratic senators now, Cory Booker and Alex Padilla, have a new bill out. They want to require CBP and ICE officers to have legible IDs, and they don't want CBP or ICE officers covering their faces. Would you ever sign that?
Well, they wouldn't be saying that if they didn't hate our country, and they obviously do. I'm surprised that they would do it, knowing a little bit about them. I don't know them well, but these officers are doing a tremendous job. They're great patriots. If you expose them because of statements like have been made by Democrats and others on the left, usually, mostly, I think probably exclusively, you put them in great danger, tremendous danger. And it's sort of funny when people picket in front of Columbia, in front of Harvard, and they have masks on, more than masks. I mean, you can't see anything. Nobody complains about that. But when a patriot who works for ICE or Border Patrol puts a mask on so that they won't recognize him and his family, so they can lead a little bit of a normal life after having worked so hard and so dangerously, there's a problem with that. So they have this is the problem with the Democrats. They have a lot of bad things going on in their heads. They've really become they've lost their confidence, number one, and they've become somewhat deranged. I want to do whatever's necessary to protect our great law enforcement people, and they are right at the top of the list.
And your agriculture department also announced this week that they are going to start limiting Chinese ownership of American farmland. Why do you think that the Chinese have been buying up all this farmland in our country so close to military installations?
Well,
This is kind of a weird response. This is a major concern, especially after we've seen those drone attacks launched by Ukraine against Russia and Israel against Iran. The fact that they are owning property next to military bases, you would think that Trump, who says all these things about China, listen to his response here. It's almost like he loves China.
I don't want to get into that. I have a very good relationship with President Xi. We're going to see, and I'm going to, they're going to be making a recommendation to me, but we have a very good relationship. As you know, they're paying a lot of tariffs to the United States now, and so I'm not going to get into that right now. Yeah, please.
Yesterday, the Wall Street Journal reported that the White House was weighing whether to send another Patriot air defense system to Ukraine. Can you confirm that reporting?
They would like it. They've asked for it. They're very rare indeed, because a lot of systems have been sent to Ukraine. But they would like to. I know they made the request. We're going to have to take a look at it. It's very expensive system. It's a shame that we have to spend so much money on a war that would have never happened if I were president. That's a terrible, terrible war over there, and truly a shame. It's very sad. When you talk about a system like that, highly sophisticated, tremendous amount of money, and they're doing it because they want to prevent death. They're getting hit hard, very hard. So we're looking at it.
I'm just going to stop there for a moment. I'm going to show you something else. He keeps saying this war never would have happened if he had been president. And yet the war was already being waged when he was president the first time around. It started 11 years ago. It started before he took office with the annexation of Crimea. And it was raging up in the eastern part of the country. It was, it continued under his watch. And you may remember the controversy about sending or not sending Javelin missiles. Let me just, I'm going to pull down out of this. This is a clip from, let me see if I can find it here. This is an astronaut. Came across this today. Terry Virts, ex-NASA astronaut on the International Space Station. And he talks about being on the space station in the winter of 2015, witnessing Russia bombing, attacking Ukraine, watching it from space. watching it with Russian cosmonauts who were on the International Space Station with him. I'll run the clip. This just to show again that this war started much earlier than Trump is suggesting. The full-scale invasion only just about 3 years ago, but the actual war began much earlier than that and continued all through Trump's presidency. So every time he says that, it makes the hair stand up on the back of my neck.
We were flying over Europe and it was like, oh, there's Ukraine. And all of a sudden we saw these little red flashes on the ground. So we were watching Russians bomb Ukrainians in the winter of 2015. And after, it was just like profound. And I thought, I was affected by it, but the way he was affected by it, him and our colleague Yelena Serova, another female cosmonaut, and another guy named Max Soraya that I flew with on my first flight, all three of them went to join Putin's party. And, you know, in the Duma, they were supporting the war. There's several other cosmonauts that I didn't fly with in the Duma. And these guys are the most enlightened people in the world. They should be. They lived in America. They know America's not going to go take over Russia. Just all this. They know all the propaganda is BS. And yet they still went to support this evil war. It was incredibly disappointing. Flying over Europe and it was like, oh, there's Ukraine.
You know, sometimes you get an aerial view on something and you get a whole different perspective on it, you know? And I have to confess, I needed an aerial view in order to refine and correct a lot of my views on this issue, because I was drinking the Kool-Aid from certain professors who have credentials, experts. And I was listening to some of the pundits and a lot of the people who have been steering people in directions I think they ought not be steering people in, including me. And even though I try to be critical, it has taken me time. A lot of time. Too much time. But lies are lies, and when I see the lies, then I start to dig deeper and deeper, and that gets us back to this guy. Let's continue with what he was talking about.
Also on Russia.
Yesterday, sir, as well, Ukraine was hit by over 700 drones sent by Russia last night. What's your response to that attack?
Well, I've been sort of letting people know I'm not happy about what's going on. It's a war that should have never happened. It should not happen now. They're losing. Now it's up, I've been saying 5,000, now it's up to 7,000. Think of it, 7,000 people a week on both sides, 7,000 people, young, mostly military people, young souls are dead and dying, and it should be stopped. It should be stopped. Very sad to see what's happening. Yes, please.
Sir, can you explain how you calculated your latest round of tariffs? Was there a formula that was used? And do you expect any of these countries to face tariffs as well?
The formula was a formula based on common sense, based on deficits, based on how we've been treated over the years, and based on raw numbers. And we're going to have a couple of more coming out today. Brazil, as an example, has been not good to us, not good at all. We're going to be releasing a Brazil number, I think, later on this afternoon or tomorrow morning. But they're based on very substantial facts and also past history. You look at the past history, we never had anybody in the White House that understood the numbers or were into it like I have. You know, we've taken in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs, hundreds of billions. And we haven't even started yet. And it's going to be a great thing for our country. And I think it's going to be a fair thing for the world. And we really haven't had too many complaints because I'm keeping them at a very low number, very conservative, as you would say, number. And we haven't had, I'm sure they will be complaining at certain points, but we haven't had complaints. We've been treated very unfairly by both friend and foe. And friend has treated us very badly. It's not even believable that for so many years, you know, I was using tariffs in my first administration. We had the most successful financially administration that there's ever been. This is going to be much better. but we got cut short with the COVID because I didn't think it was appropriate when, Italy, Spain, so the horror show that a lot of the countries went through. So I cut it a little bit short, but we took in hundreds of billions of dollars, and we had the most successful term ever from a president financially. But this is going to be much more successful. Yes, please.
Let's just stop there for a moment. He issued a bunch of new letters today, tariff letters, as he's calling them. So let's go over Truth Social. We'll do a little Truth Social scroll. Here we go. Let's take a look at the newest letters. Who did he send these to? These threatening. No, this isn't a threat. This is a promise. Yeah. Here it is. So this one is Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka gets hit with tariffs today. Okay. How much? Can I see that? I have to read that. 30% on all Sri Lankan products sent to the United States, on everything across the board. Just because, what's the formula? It's the Donald Trump formula. It's whatever he says goes. I shouldn't even be laughing. Brazil. Yeah, Brazil's getting hit too. 50% on all Brazilian products being sent to the United States. And if anything is transshipped, in other words, if they bring something like, say, made in China and then take it to another country and slap a made in Brazil label on it and they get caught, there'll be additional tariffs. So those are two. There are more, apparently, that were issued today as well. Oh, Jesus. And yesterday, 50% tariff on copper. That's what came as a result of yesterday's formula. It seems like the formula changes every single day. As a result of all of this, it's creating a great deal of instability and uncertainty. As a result, not good news on the U.S. side and not good news on the Canadian side either. We both lose tonight because Nissan has halted production of 3 vehicle models destined for Canada at its U.S. plants in Tennessee and Mississippi. So let me be clear. They're shutting down production at United States assembly facilities operated by Nissan Motor Company. These are models where they produce versions of them for the Canadian market. What do I mean? It means that the vehicles on the assembly line, you see, as they go down the assembly line, certain vehicles ordered by Canadians for sale in Canada, they get some different components added, different parts to make them compliant with Canadian law. For instance, speedometers, kilometers per hour instead of miles per hour, or things of that nature. These days, not as much of an issue because the stuff is largely digital, but nevertheless, they have to be programmed properly so that the kilometers an hour is prominent or whatever, but there are other components and bits and pieces that make them compliant for the Canadian market. In some cases, crash safety standards are different, usually higher in Canada than in the US on vehicles. So sometimes bumper mounts are beefed up. They're stronger on the Canadian models or the Canadian versions of models that are shipped to Canada. So these tariffs, of course, were sparked by Trump's levies on global auto imports. And Canada has retaliatory measures. It's been disruptive, and it's been disrupting cross-border supply chains. Nissan sold about 104,000 vehicles in Canada last year and stockpiled inventory to cushion the blow from these tariffs, with roughly 90 days supply of these models just sitting, waiting to be sold as of today. And Nissan is hoping to resume production if a trade deal is reached. But for now, Canadian dealerships face dwindling stocks over time, with only 99 Nissan Frontiers currently listed as being available in the Canadian market. So I don't know how this is going to have a pretty negative impact, I think, on Canadian Nissan dealerships. But this really affects, I think, basically the Pathfinder, the Murano SUV, which both of which are built in. The Murano is built in Tennessee, I believe, and the Frontier pickup, which is assembled in Mississippi. Nissan, though, is saying that the majority of its models are produced in other countries, including Mexico, and then shipped into Canada. But I can tell you that Nissan does not have any assembly facilities in Canada. So this suspension adds pressure to Nissan's already strained operations, because the company isn't really one of the stronger auto companies out there right now. So it's straining their operations, and it's been compounded by a recent recall as well. They had about 38,000 vehicles in Canada recalled for potential engine defects, and production cuts for its upcoming Leaf EV due to part shortages is also adding to the strain. Industry observers are warning that this could signal broader challenges for automakers reliant on North American trade, with local suppliers and dealers bracing for impact. Now, also in a related story, we talked about Mark Carney, Canada's new prime minister, meeting just days ago, really, with the executives from Canada's auto companies, the Canadian presidents of those companies, CEOs. Well, now there's this other story that has come out in the last few days with Ontario's auto mayors, the mayors of auto cities. The Ontario Auto Mayors Association, representing leaders from Simcoe County and beyond, has said this because it's largely an Ontario industry, auto manufacturing, and Quebec. They've sent an urgent letter to Prime Minister Mark Carney pressing for changes to Canada's zero-emission vehicles mandate. And that's what Carney was meeting with the leaders of the automakers regarding. And they were talking about the EV mandate. And it looks like they came out of it fairly optimistic. So there's just an ongoing push from various fronts, from the auto manufacturers themselves, now from Ontario's auto mayors, and we saw as well the Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith, and Ontario's Premier, Doug Ford, meet earlier this week, and also call on the Prime Minister to roll back that EV mandate, because the market just isn't responding the way that politicians who have been pushing the electrification of the auto industry had been hoping. Now, these auto mayors are not asking for, the push toward electrification just stop. What they want is what they're saying is more realistic targets for EV manufacturing. And all this comes, of course, as these U.S. tariffs and a slowdown in EV sales hit Ontario hard. Honda's decision to delay its $15 billion EV and battery plant in Alliston by at least 2 years has heightened concerns in Simcoe County, where the automaker employs 4,200 people and supports 30,000 more jobs across the supply chain. The mayors argue that non-plug-in hybrids, which combine gas engines with electric motors and don't require external charging, should count fully toward ZEV targets. They say this would give consumers a practical bridge to electrification while boosting Canadian manufacturing. So this letter from the mayors warns that the current mandate favors imported electric vehicles and risks the displacement of Canadian-made vehicles and missed opportunities to grow domestic production. Local mayors report that auto suppliers are already seeing production shift to the U.S., leading to job losses and reduced investment in Canada. And many Ontario plants, and they note, could easily produce non-plug-in hybrids, but without policy changes, the industry's competitiveness is at stake. So this involves mayors from New Tecumseh, Midland, Collingwood, and other municipalities, and I think community leaders from places like Windsor, Oshawa, and Oakville also having a voice in this. So back now to the Washington side, where we're seeing a developing story coming right out of Washington, where 6 Republican lawmakers from Wisconsin and Minnesota have sent a letter to Canada's U.S. ambassador, Kristen Hillman. This happening today. They're expressing concern over wildfire smoke drifting across the border. Let me show you the headline. I think we've got it up here, right there. Yeah. It's it's a breaking story as of tonight, just coming to light as we were going on the air. Here's the CTV headline. We'll go there for that one tonight, but you'll find information on this everywhere because it's making the rounds this news cycle. So basically what they're saying is that Canada, with its wildfires, is ruining their summer. The letter points to poor forest management and arson as key causes of Canada's wildfires, urging Ottawa to take stronger action to curb the blazes. It asks how Canada plans to mitigate the smoke affecting air quality in Midwestern states, noting that 2023 was Canada's worst wildfire season on record, with this year potentially ranking as the second worst. Last year was terrible. The lawmakers emphasized that modern technology could reverse this trend if applied effectively. Maybe. Canada's embassy confirmed receipt of the letter, and the Canadian officials have responded saying that the country takes wildfire prevention and response seriously. The letter comes, of course, amid strained U.S.-Canada relations with ongoing trade disputes and President Trump's recent comments on climate and tariffs, adding tension. And of course, then there's the whole 51st state stuff. Critics note that the letter omits climate change as a factor, despite experts linking warmer temperatures to worsening wildfires. And you have these conflicting views on all of that. And then you throw in a few conspiracy theories here and there. And you've got yourself a political hornet's nest. Maybe worse, maybe a giant political wildfire. And this letter throwing fuel on the fire. Canada's getting hit on all fronts by the United States, whether it's this or there was also just this video that came out a few days ago hammering on the fisheries industry out on the East Coast. We'll maybe get into that another night. I'm kind of waiting to see how that story develops. But that seems to be something of major concern as well. And a lot of the statements made in that video, which Donald Trump reposted over on his Truth Social account, as I was researching the stuff, some of the stuff was not really accurate. But hey, when has that ever stopped the Donald from pointing fingers and making accusations, right? He makes up numbers and things. And it's a very threatening thing to Canada in and of itself. And we're not the only ones who have been threatened by the man in the White House. There's new leaked audio that has come out overnight. Didn't become aware of this until we were off the program last night. But leaked audio from 2024 fundraisers have surfaced, revealing that Donald Trump was claimed that he threatened, this is in his recordings, to bomb Moscow and Beijing to deter Russian and Chinese military actions. This is the peace president, by the way. According to recordings that were obtained by CNN, Trump told donors in these, I guess, secret recordings that were made, that he warned Russian President Vladimir Putin that if Russia invaded Ukraine, he would, quote, bomb the hell out of Moscow, stating, I have no choice. He claimed that Putin believed him 10%, which he said was enough. And Trump also alleged he issued a similar warning to President Xi Jinping, threatening to bomb Beijing if China moved on Taiwan, adding that Xi thought he was crazy, but also believed him 10%. I wonder if it would take him 2 weeks to get that bombing raid done. Here's, let's go to this CNN report and interview, and we will get a better perspective on this.
I had a very strong conversation with President Putin, and he understood, and I won't go into the great details of.
They set this up in this report by saying that Trump always said that Putin and Xi Jinping were kind of afraid of him, but never really explained why. But now there's this book that has come out, and it reveals, as a result of this conversation or this audio that we're about to hear, this isn't the secretly recorded audio. This is a prelude to that. This is a setup by CNN to set the story up, set the stage, if you will, so that you understand.
Of the conversation, because nobody has to know that. But I will tell you, it never, ever would have happened.
I don't want to say it, but did they fear me? I suspect they did.
And this is why.
Well, tonight we're learning those details as the audio reveals that Trump says that he threatened not just President Putin, but also China's President Xi Jinping. And this is what he told donors about what exactly that conversation looked like during a private fundraiser last year.
Wait, do not sell your...
Okay, here we go.
If you go in to Ukraine, we're going to bomb the shit out of Moscow. I'm
Let's
telling
just
you.
back it up so you get the whole
To Ukraine.
Fundraiser last year.
To Putin, I said, if you go in to Ukraine, we're going to bomb the shit out of Moscow. I'm telling you, I have no choice. The public wants it. The public. So he goes like, I don't believe you. He said, no way. And I said, way. And then he goes like, I don't believe you. But the truth is, he believed me 10%. And I told you this, he believed me 10%. Then I'm with President Xi of China. But I said the same thing to them. I said, if you go into Taiwan, I'm going to bomb the shit out of Beijing. He thought I was crazy. He said, Beijing, you're going to bomb Beijing. I said, I have no choice. I got to tell you, we're going to bomb Beijing. And he didn't believe me either, except 10%. And 10% is all you need. In fact, 5% would have been okay too. And we never had a problem. We would have never had a problem.
The Trump campaign declined to comment on the content of what you just heard there, but the three deeply sourced reporters who acquired that exclusive audio are joining me now tonight. Josh Dawsey of the Wall Street Journal, Isaac Arnsdorf of the Washington Post, of course, also Tyler Pager of the Times as well, are all three the authors on the book that is out today. 2024, how Trump retook the White House and the Democrats lost America. And Josh Dawsey, you obviously have covered Trump along with me for years now. Given the audio of what you heard the president saying about Putin then, I wonder what you made of how fed up he seemed with him today.
Well, I think what he was trying to tell the donors there, Caitlin, was that he could have deterred this. He could have stopped this. You heard him say on the campaign trail, if you reelect me, I can stop this immediately. And it's clear Vladimir Putin has not been listening to what Trump wants, right? Trump says, I've been doing all these calls, they're frustrating. Today he unleashed a profanity as he was sort of describing what he thought of Vladimir Putin and what he was doing. But what you see in that tape is Trump behind closed doors to his richest donors in New York, telling them, I had control over these guys, basically espousing the madman theory, right? They thought I was just crazy enough that maybe I would have done something if they crossed me. And I used that to basically get them to do what I wanted them to do. And I think what the frustration you're seeing now from President Trump, we've reported he says Vladimir Putin has changed. He makes all of these comments in private about how he used to think he had a better relationship with Vladimir Putin. And I think Putin's just not listening to him. Putin's not listening to what Trump wants him to do.
Yeah, and Isaac, when Trump was running, and obviously that is a deep part of the book, is what the Trump campaign looked like internally, as well as the Biden-Harris campaign. But when he was running, the argument that he made to voters was, I can fix this. I can handle this. Putin is scared of me and intimidated by me, as Josh mentioned there. And now here we are, that he's been in office for several months and is realizing that Putin isn't showing a lot of interest in getting the deal that Trump wants here.
Well, more often than Putin being scared of him, it was, Putin was someone he had a good relationship with. And Trump has often talked about Putin as someone who could make a deal with, that they could find some common ground. And a lot of Russia specialists in the U.S. national security establishment looked at that and said, Putin is not interested in improving relations with the West. He wants nothing to do with the West. It just doesn't work that way. You can just give him what he wants and he's going to go home. That's not a way to resolve this war. And Trump is finding that out the hard way now that he's 6 months into past due on his promise for that war to be over. And he's clearly frustrated.
Josh, what did it say to you when Trump was asked, when I asked him, who directed the pause of this shipment of munitions? Clearly something he did not want, given he has just said he's going to send more to Ukraine. And he just essentially, turned it into an answer that he did not fully elaborate on and didn't turn to Hegseth, who was sitting right next to him.
Right. I mean, you and I have seen him do that many times over the years, Caitlin. When he wants to answer a question, he can often be long and verbose and can tell you exactly what he wants. And when he doesn't want to answer a question, he clearly didn't want to answer that question. He didn't, right? And I've always been very interested, as a reporter, when the president doesn't answer a question like that, what the answer might be. Obviously, we don't know tonight.
And your other co-author, Tyler, is here with us now. And Tyler Pager, obviously, in terms of watching that cabinet meeting play out today, I think the president's reaction to this sanctions bill that a lot of Republicans...
Okay, enough of that. Interesting audio. It's from a while back. Let's take a little break. Lots more to come on the other side. Maverick News. The world is watching. And I'm back. I'm just looking in the chat over here. I'll try and look later. I don't have time to sit in the chat at the moment because I got to push buttons over here. What else do we have for you tonight? Oh, well, let's go back to Trump because, what else is there to talk about? This is Trump tonight talking about, this is also from that news conference. Yeah, yesterday he was asked about the pausing of military aid to Ukraine. And then he was asked, who approved it because it wasn't you. And he said, I don't know. So he was asked about it again today. And his response, again, I don't know. It's an odd response. And it shows, I don't know exactly what it shows, other than Trump doesn't seem to know who's making important decisions like that, which now this will be the second time he's had to reverse it, because it was Hegseth the first time who paused arms shipments to Ukraine without Trump's approval, I guess. And now again, somebody paused arms shipments to Ukraine and Trump, I guess, didn't know. Okay. Let's run the clip.
Sir, President? Yeah, please.
Sir, yesterday You said that you were not sure who ordered the munitions halted to Ukraine. Have you since been able to figure that out?
Well, I haven't thought about it because we're looking at Ukraine right now and munitions, but I have not gone into it.
What does it say that such a big decision could be made inside your government without you knowing?
I would know. If a decision was made, I will know. I'll be the first to know. In fact, most likely I'd give the order, but I haven't done that yet. Yeah, please.
Can I ask how your meeting with Netanyahu went over the last couple of days, and how realistic do you think a ceasefire is this week?
Well, we're talking about Gaza for the most part. I think we have a chance this week or next week. Not definitely. There's nothing definite about war and Gaza and all of the other places that we all deal with so much. But there's a very good chance that we'll have a settlement, an agreement of some kind this week, and maybe next week if not.
The African Growth and Opportunity Act, which has been central to many sub-Saharan countries having access to the U.S. market, that's due to expire in September. Are you hoping to extend that beyond it?
Well, we'll take a look at that. Yes, please.
Thank you. That's up to Congress to take a first crack at. We know that program's been in place for about 20 years, and at the end result of that, we see a lot of other countries operating in Africa. We still see a lot of tariff and non-tariff barriers in Africa. So I think any discussion about that act would also have to think about how we address those kinds of barriers.
Yeah, Peter.
President Trump, in Alvarado, Texas, a few days ago, 10 people wearing all black allegedly set off fireworks outside an ICE office to lure the officers out so they could ambush them, shoot at them. They had guns and vests and two-way radios. Do you think that this was an isolated incident, or do you think there's a national threat of a left-wing militia that is targeting ICE and CBP?
Well, I think you have some very stupid people in the left who have some money that are making it available to these people, because you look at the guns they had, they were brand new. You look at even the clothing they were wearing, it looked like it just came out of some military shop. So you have some very stupid people that if anything ever happened, they'd be the first to go. They don't understand that. They'd be the first to go. They'd be the first ones hit. But there is money being put behind people. When you look at the weapons they have, the newness of the weapons, rifles that just came out and they have the latest model. So there's something going on, and we'll get to the bottom of it.
And what do you think the penalty should be for these people who are, if they are found guilty, for people who shoot at ICE officers?
Very, very stiff. Very stiff. A long time in jail, a long time. And one got hit yesterday in the neck. And he fortunately is going to be okay, but he got hit yesterday in the neck. No good.
And what would you think if I read you a quote from a lawmaker who says about ICE, to abolish it, to treat them as criminals or anything that is inappropriate and outrageous? And I told you that that was Democrat John Fetterman.
Well, it's, by the way, I assume when you read that, because you paused in the middle, you're going to have to read that again without the pause. Could you read that again, please?
To abolish it, to treat them as criminals or anything that's inappropriate and outrageous.
So he's saying that to treat the people that did the shooting is...
To treat ICE officers.
Oh, okay, good. Because the way you read it, it really was the opposite. But that's okay. That's all right. I think that's what he meant. No, the new John Fetterman is exactly what you said. He's right. He's right, and we have to protect our police officers, and we will. And we have been, if you saw the stats released by the FBI the other day, the murder rate's way down, the lowest it's been in a long time, and that took place over the last 6 months. For the last 6 months, murder, it's a hell of a subject to have to talk about, but murder is way down at almost getting to be modern-day records. So that's despite the fact that we have a lot of people that came into the country that shouldn't be here.
Mr. President?
Yes, please.
So two questions, one on tariffs, the other on the IRS. On tariffs, China is reportedly softening their impact on U.S. tariffs in Africa, announcing last month that they would halt charges on imports for nearly all of its African partners.
Good.
Does this move by China influence your thinking, your approach to tariffs on the continent?
Well, we treat Africa great in many different ways, including with tariffs. But, parts of Africa charge us tremendous tariffs, as you know. and they're going to be dropping those tariffs. They've already informed me they're going to be dropping those tariffs. But we treat Africa far better than China or anybody else, anyplace else. Yeah.
And on the IRS says that churches can now endorse political candidates. What's your reaction to this, and how do you expect this to influence some of the work that's afoot on the continent? There's a lot of American churches that are missionaries doing missionary work on the continent. Do you support that?
I love the fact that churches can endorse a political candidate. I think so, because we have a lot of respect for the people that lead the church, for the pastors and the ministers and the rabbis and all different leaders, all different religions, and people respect those people. And I think there's nothing wrong. You know, it was a very big penalty if that took place just a little while ago. They had a thing called the Johnson Act, and it was a very big penalty. I think it's great if a pastor, minister, priest, rabbi, and we could very much go into your religion, by the way, which is something that people have a great respect for throughout the world. If somebody of faith wants to endorse, I think it's something that I'd like to hear. And I can guarantee you the people that they're with every Saturday or Sunday or whenever it is they're with, they want to hear from these people. And it was a very severe penalty. Those people were not allowed to speak up. Now they're allowed to speak up. No, I think it's terrific.
Mr. President, your administration took new actions against Harvard University today. Are you still optimistic about reaching a deal with the university?
Oh, yeah, I think so. Harvard's been very bad, totally anti-Semitic. And, yeah, they'll absolutely reach a deal. Peter?
I just got a text from our colleague, John Roberts. He says that we are now reporting the guy who was arrested in the Alvarado, Texas incident for tampering with the evidence was a green card recipient under the Biden administration and a prior DACA recipient. What do you think of that?
It's very sad. It's very bad. A lot of them are here. We came in 21 million. I think it's higher than that, by the way, but they say 21 million people came in. Many of them are criminals. Many of them are murderers. 11,888 is what they say are murderers. And they came in through open border policies, no checking, no vetting, no nothing. And we have a lot of that. And despite that, we have crime down, which is pretty amazing.
And this is a
and
long
say hello
meeting,
to
so
John. Say hello to John Roberts.
I will. I'm sure he's watching this right now. A lot of news has broken since we've been in here. Axios says a secret White House meeting between Steve Witkoff, Ron Dermer, and a Qatari envoy on Tuesday led to significant progress in the negotiations over the Gaza hostage and ceasefire deal. What can you tell us about this
It's
secret
very possible.
meeting?
I will tell you we're getting very close to a deal. I don't know if it's secret or not secret, but it doesn't matter to me. Secret's fine if it gets us to where we want to be. We want to have a ceasefire. We want to have peace. We want to get the hostages back. And I think we're close to doing it. Okay? Thank you all very much. Thank you very much.
Thanks, President Trump.
Thank you.
And so ends that. You mentioned John Roberts. If you're Canadian, you may recall where John Roberts came from. He was the guy texting Ducey. J.D. Roberts. He used to be on Much Music. And I think he also was part of the show, The New Music. Just remembered this. I'm just going to look it up. Wonder if there are any old clips of J.D. Roberts. I'll tell you what, I'll share this stuff with you at the end of the program if I can find it. Yeah, there we go. I've got it. Okay, we're gonna do a little J.D. Roberts roast at the end of the broadcast. I wonder if Trump's planning on deporting John Roberts along with Elon Musk. More after this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, I'm back. So, back to this story out of Texas, the flash flooding from July 4th to the 7th. Torrential rains, as you know, battered the Texas Hill Country, particularly Kerr County, triggering catastrophic flooding along the Guadalupe River. Up to 15 inches of rain fell in just hours, causing the river to surge 26 feet in 45 minutes, leading to one of the deadliest flood events in Texas history. So, what are the latest? Well, we have reports confirming now at least 120 deaths statewide, with 95 in Kerr County alone, including 36 children. Over 160 people remain missing tonight, with search and rescue operations ongoing. The Christian summer camp at Camp Mystic was hit hardest, with at least 27 campers and counselors lost after floodwaters swept through. 5 campers and 1 counselor are still unaccounted for. The floods, fueled by a mesoscale convective complex and remnants of Tropical Storm Barry, caught many off guard. The National Weather Service issued flood watches and flash flood warnings starting July 3rd, but local officials and residents, including Kerr County Judge Rob Kelly, say the scale of the disaster was unforeseen, with no local flood warning system in place. Questions are mounting about staffing shortages at weather offices and whether warnings reached enough people in time. Governor Greg Abbott has declared a state disaster for multiple counties, and President Donald Trump signed a federal disaster declaration for Kerr County, deploying FEMA and U.S. Coast Guard teams that have rescued over 850 people. Interesting, there was a report on I'll call it a channel, just within the last couple of days, criticizing the use of emergency declarations in the United States, suggesting that that is what is being used to take people's freedom away. I wonder, though, if people in Texas right now would view it that way, given the state of emergency that they are in right now and the emergency declaration they are currently under, which is used to really give certain additional powers to government, including local and state officials and federal officials, for materials acquisition, to put certain provisions in place to make sure that people are taken care of in times of crisis, whether it's hurricanes, floods, times of war, when people need more security, when people need additional assistance, food, when roads have to be blocked off or rebuilt and funds have to be allocated for such measures. Anyway, search efforts continue with over 1,000 personnel, including teams from Mexico, California, Florida, scouring debris-laden rivers. And the governor has announced a special legislative session to address flood warning systems and disaster preparedness. The Texas Hill Country, known as Flash Flood Alley, due to its steep terrain and impermeable soil, remains vulnerable. And even though some people sent me some distasteful links to some stories about, what the possible conspiratorial causes of this flooding might have been, as I laid out for you last night, this area is prone to flooding and has a very, very long history of floods being recorded throughout American history. And that's why they are supposed to have flood evacuation plans and emergency plans in place for these camps, like the one that we've been talking about, Camp Mystic. And yet Whatever they had in place at Camp Mystic was obviously inadequate. Tonight, we're seeing reports that the camp, I guess, did show state officials that they had an emergency preparedness plan. This headline on NBC saying Texas officials approved Camp Mystic's operating plan days before the fatal floods. But the thing is, even as we sit here tonight, it's not exactly clear what the plan was, because Texas doesn't approve of or keep copies of such plans. And camps are required to show only that they have plans in place, but I guess they don't actually have to show them what the plan is. Here's the first part of the story. 2 days before flash floods on the Guadalupe River in Texas killed at least 27 campers and staff members at a Christian girls' summer camp. A state inspector was there to approve camp operations and noted there was a written plan for responding to natural disasters. What that plan said, however, is unclear. Texas does not approve or keep copies of emergency plans. Camps are required only to show they have a plan in place. Officials at Camp Mystic, still reeling from the deaths of campers, staffers, and its director, and from the ongoing search for others, could not be reached for comment by NBC on what the plan included or how the camp responded to Friday's flood. Questions are swirling around the emergency response by state and local officials and whether the flood plan the camp laid out was adequate or was even executed as the historic flash flood struck in the darkness. And there have also been reports and interviews with some people who have attended the camp in the past, including some parents who went to the camp in their youth and now have kids who were at the camp, saying that they always had an evacuation plan in place and it was a solid plan. And that's why some parents are saying they felt it was a safe place to leave their kids. And yet whatever they had in place was clearly not adequate. And last night we also reported that there are some claims that the camp has a no cell phone policy for the kids. Not clear if there's even adequate cell phone or any cell phone coverage in that area at certain times. And also some questions about whether there was even any kind of a radio system in there where they might receive or be able to receive warnings about the weather and flash flooding. So all these things being scrutinized, and we'll find out over time, I guess, more, but nothing's ever going to bring back those young lives. Absolutely tragic. So yeah, the Texas Hill Country is known as Flash Flood Alley. So it's not like they didn't know. This has happened many times in the past. Now, back to international news. Story we reported on last night. And I said, I think this is real. I'm not 100% sure. But there's that story I told you about involving the ship, the Magic Seas. The Houthis claimed that they sank the ship. And I said, I don't know. I think this is real. I was pretty sure it was real. And I said, you know, look at the high level of production that went into this video. The Houthis, of course, attacking this. Strangely enough, since the president of Liberia was kind of insulted in the White House today, this was a Liberian flagged ship going through the Red Sea. Houthis attacked it. I'll play you the video again. We have, I believe we have, yeah, here we go. Here's some video of what happened last night. Anyway, I have more information on it. That's why I'm talking about it again. Going to get into this in a moment, but let me first of all. It was video showing what they did. I'm just going to bring the audio down on this because I don't want a copyright strike on their music. So what happened here is, I guess the ship was attacked with drones and then obviously with people in speedboats of some kind, and so the reports are that The crew managed to get off. They were forced off the boat, and they were picked up by another vessel. So they got away. And then it appears that after it was taking on water, and then these guys, then they this is the video that the Houthis released. After, so it was taking on water. The crew was already off at this point. So at first it's like, well, is this even real? Like, how could they be doing this, right? And where's the crew? It's I guess it's because the crew had already managed to get off the vessel, off this ship. And then some time went by, and then obviously, knowing that the information war is as important as the kinetic war that they're waging at sea, trying to control that section for shipping, control that shipping route. It's a choke point. Nobody on board, but they sent a video crew to videotape all of this. And so this is the Houthi rebels boarding the vessel, which is now unmanned. And they went on board, shot video, planted these charges, detonated them. That's the way the story goes anyway. So this is all transpiring over an extended period of time, but it's condensed in the video and very, highly produced with music, a music track. And what they're really doing here is they're turning an actual war into a movie. So still armed and nobody on the ship though at this point. And then there's music playing, but I don't want a copyright strike, so I'm not going to run it again. Now, is this real? That is the question. And then I guess there were some people in the chat the other night, or at least one or two people, saying, no, totally fake. Totally fake. And I have to confess, it looked like it may well have been fake. That's why I kind of prefaced everything that I said last night. But I ran it because there was credible reporting out there that this was actually real. So where are we at tonight with it? I bring it up because everything indicates that this is real. And I don't criticize anybody that thinks that it might be fake, given what we are dealing with right now, because of artificial intelligence, and this is something we're likely going to get into deeper in the days ahead. But I just wanted to highlight for you that this has now been confirmed as a ship that has been lost. So the Magic Seas did go down, and it does look like the Houthis did sink it. Generally, these kinds of reports have been denied and usually debunked because the Houthis have, on a regular basis, made false claims about attacking especially U.S. naval vessels, including aircraft carriers, creating fake videos, often using recycled footage of other ships that have nothing to do with the claim that they are making, but they put a picture of a ship burning up on the screen for you and then say, this is a ship that we sank or attacked, and it's not true at all. And that's why I have to say that before I reported on this last night, I did, just to illustrate for you the extent that I went to verify information to the best of my ability before I ran that video last night. I went and I found old images of the Magic Seas vessel. And then I compared the images that I verified as being authentic from the past, like from a number of years ago, to yesterday's video, making sure that little details on the ship were accurate, that they were the same. Everything was in place, that the name on the ship was the same, that, things sticking out of the top of the mast and stuff, that it was all consistent, and that it looked like it was an accurate match, almost like facial recognition for a ship. So I did that. I went and I found ship tracking sites where you could track the movements of ships around the world and where are they located, and found where it had been traveling. and where it was last reported, although at the time it hadn't been absolutely verified where that ship was using those sites. But we did have other media reports. We had multiple credible sources reporting that it was true, that it actually did go down, and some verification as well from maritime related organizations that also track these things. So there was lots of credible reporting to say that the Houthis did, in fact, in this case, actually sink this ship. Now, one observation that I guess someone made in the chat that was running last night was, no, it's all fake. The ship went down, no oil slick, no oil in it. And so that's how we know that it's fake, except that, again, details. You wouldn't get an oil slick in this case at all because that ship not carrying oil. It was filled with iron ore and some other goods. So it wasn't not an oil tanker in this case. So that's not it. So you have to really be careful about what you say, what conclusions you jump to. And I can tell you that I also did extensive searches online looking for other reports to verify. And then even today, I mean, I even after going through all of that and finding multiple sources confirming that this ship had been sunk, even today I went back and I checked again for you, and I can tell you that there has now been confirmation that that ship has been lost. And so there is a company out there that tracks these vessels and has confirmed that the Magic Seas did go down. The Houthis claimed the attack. They claimed it, so they say they did it, alleging the ship's operator, All Seas Marine, violated their ban on vessels linked to Israeli ports. And maritime data indicates sister ships in the company's fleet had called at Israeli ports in the past year. And the sinking is the third now commercial vessel lost to Houthi attacks since November of 2023. And it has heightened fears of renewed disruptions to Red Sea shipping, a critical route for global trade. So the United States State Department condemned the attack. Also another piece of confirmation as, quote, an unprovoked Houthi terror attack on civilian vessels, while international shipping groups are now urging stronger protections for seafarers. Now, in the past, when we've seen these kinds of claims from the Houthis that have been debunked, that have turned out to be fake, you don't get those additional confirmations. So I'm confident that that ship did go down, and then at the end of it all, with that production, that highly produced video, I find that stuff incredibly distasteful because what they have done is these various countries producing videos, like, I don't like it because they turn it into almost like a form of entertainment. It's propaganda. I'm always reluctant to even show you this stuff, but that's the nature of warfare these days. You're seeing it in the Middle East with both Israel producing videos like this, Gaza, you're seeing it in Russia, Ukraine, both those countries producing videos, highly produced like this. Personally, I find it kind of gross. And people's views are molded with that kind of propaganda. And even though it's true in this case, the ship was attacked, it did go down, it's propaganda. And strangely, it's fueling anger, I would say, on both sides, because on the Houthi side, they're using it just to show how strong they are, to bolster support for their position with their own people and base of support. And on the other side, the Israeli side, the West, people are condemning it and pointing to that video, and it enrages some people. And when things are being fueled by emotion, people just don't think straight. Stay with me. More to come.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching. The world is watching. On TV, the entire world is watching. On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
Epstein still trending. I think it's the number one topic of discussion on X even tonight. Trump doesn't want people talking about it. Can't imagine why. Here, MAG is melting down over the Epstein issue, where now we're being told, after how many years of the list exists, we have the list of the Epstein clients, and the just fueling pedophilia, paranoia. Not that anybody in their right mind is in favor of pedophilia, of course not. But now you can't win one way or the other, right? Were they lying before, saying that they knew that the Epstein client list existed and they were just wrong? Or are they lying now and it does exist and they're saying it doesn't exist? I don't know. Either way, MAGA, as I say, is melting down. Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene on Steve Bannon's show.
Last thing, your recommendations to the president this morning on the Epstein situation. You've been all over this. Tell me, what's your recommendation to President Trump?
Well, I don't tell President Trump what to do. I support President Trump, and I represent my district and the American people in the House of Representatives. And here's what I think is incredibly important: is the Department of Justice and the FBI needs to provide more answers, because Jeffrey Epstein is the most well-known pedophile and sex trafficker in modern day human history. And he was surrounded by rich, powerful people, foreign leaders, and American leaders. And this can't go unanswered. People will not accept it. It is, I mean, think of the fact Bill Clinton was on his plane over 26 times. He was, one of his victims was photoed with Prince Andrew. These people were surrounded themselves with Jeffrey Epstein. And when you hang out with somebody, you know what they do. So it's very hard for people to believe that there weren't foreign leaders or American leaders or rich, powerful people involved in his activities. It's hard that it doesn't pass the smell test. And it's not wrong for people to continue to ask questions.
So on to Superman. Superman movie generating controversy. But first of all, well, no, it's okay. We'll just stick with this. I saw the Superman trailer for the new movie, which is due to come out on the 11th, so not tomorrow, but the next day. And I thought that was a fantastic trailer. I can't run it. We'll get hit with a copyright strike for sure. But if you've seen it, it grabbed me. I think it got me because it's got a dog. It's got Super Dog in it. And Superman crashes, comes down out of the sky and lands in the snow. And then Super Dog, what do they call his dog crypto, whatever. He whistles and the dog comes and rescues him. And I'm like, oh, I want to cry. So, because I like the dog. So I want to go see the movie. But a lot of people on the conservative side of things are saying, no, I'm not going because it's, even though it's, I thought it was kind of a gripping little trailer. Some people are calling it super woke. Yeah. So this is after director James Gunn called the film a story about an immigrant that came from other places. This was back on July 5th in an interview with the Sunday Times. And Gunn, also co-CEO of DC Studios, described the movie as a tale of, quote, basic human kindness and the story of America. And that has sparked fierce backlash from conservative commentators and media, with Fox News branding the film super woke and Kellyanne Conway arguing, we don't go to the movie theater to be lectured to. I've said that myself, quite frankly. It has gotten to the point with some films, I've said this before, where there's so much politics overlaid into these movies these days that, yeah, I feel like I'm being lectured to, that they're delivering a political message, when sometimes, especially these days, because I'm so immersed in politics, I want to get away from it. I want to unplug. I don't want any political messaging, but it's inevitable, I suppose, when it comes to art. And Jesse Waters also quipped that Superman's cape now reads MS-13. I've got the clip of the Fox News piece that really, I think, is the thing that started all this. And they sort of did this preview/review. I don't know. I'm not sure if they got to see the movie in advance, maybe at a preview screening. That's likely how they know about it.
And I went to the Yankees at Mets game yesterday at Citi Field. Go Yanks. And you should see the people sitting for the national anthem for God Bless America. It's really just, I can't believe that we've come down to that. And I don't know, we don't go to the movie theater to be lectured to and to have somebody throw their ideology onto us. I wonder if it'll be successful.
You know what it says on his cape? MS-13.
Wow. Is it superimposed or it actually says that? It is super. Just on the knuckles. One more thing is up next.
And I went to the Yankees at.
I don't know. Thing is, I back about a year and a half or 2 years ago now, there was somebody on this show who was claiming that Superman is a communist. Some people say that because the creators, both of whom were Jewish, have been said to be socialists. And this is all sparking a lot of debate online, as you can see. Yeah, here's a Jag. Don't know the account, but he's posting Superman isn't, though. There's many different elements to the character that weren't shown fully in live action. The comic book character is probably one of the most human and relatable characters. If you want to understand the character, read a few of his best comics. And Grant Morrison here saying Superman is a working class superhero. Fantastic Geek writing, can't wait for them to discover in the next week that Superman is an immigrant, undocumented, collected, educated, a reporter, respectful in a diverse workplace, opposed to egotistical, bald millionaire. Yeah, that was 1938. Says here, James Gunn says Superman is about an immigrant that came from other places and how we've lost the value of basic human kindness. Yes, it's about politics. In fact, that's actually, in this particular case, that's what attracted me to the movie too. Some of the preview material that I watched raised actual solid political questions questions about due process because, of course, Superman, just taking the law into his own hands is that vigilante justice in itself. So these are, I'm eager to go see the movie, frankly. I think it's going to make me think. I don't know about you. But here's the interview with James Gunn that prompted a lot. Well, this is really what started it all and then got Fox News all triggered up.
It is exactly what the movie is about, I think, that we support our people, we love our immigrants. Yes, Superman is an immigrant. And yes, the people that we support in this country are immigrants. And if you don't like that, then you're not American. People who it is
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, well, I don't know about some of these other claims. This one here says Superman is literally an undocumented immigrant with a bisexual son. Superman stands for truth, justice, and the American way. And he's conservative, it says here on Bat Shine Man. And then the person above him, Minty, responding to that post that he's a conservative. Superman is literally an undocumented immigrant with a bisexual son. Is he? Does he have a bisexual son? I didn't know that. This is pretty good. This is from the series, what did they call this? Smallville? Let's run this clip. This one's pretty good.
We have no choice. We have to call immigration.
I told Javier he'd be safe here, and I meant it.
I want to help this boy as much as you do, but I took an oath to uphold the law.
All he's trying to do is find his mom.
I know, but we have to go through the proper legal channels.
Was it legal when you forged my adoption papers? I'm an illegal immigrant, Mom. You've been harboring me for over 17 years.
Your situation was entirely different. We had to protect you.
And I need to protect Javier. If I don't defend him, who will?
Well, I'll say this, we need strong people to stand up for weak people. We need a whole lot more of that in our world, I think. Protecting the little guy, protecting people who are weaker than ourselves. The immigration issue aside, just comes down to things that are just that simple. Brings me to, I don't even know why exactly this is triggering, for lack of a better word, a memory for me. And this is, well, I'm going to come back to this because I think this is probably better to close the program with this thought, this story about Superman. I probably should have done the J.D. Roberts thing first. But let's just segue over. Remember J.D. Roberts? That's John Roberts, the news guy that most of you are familiar with. He's the guy who was texting Peter Doocy in the news conference with Trump. And I just remembered J.D. Roberts from the 1980s, 1980s, I think. It would be the 80s. That's how he got his start. He was over on Much Music in Canada, back when music videos were a big thing. Here he is. This is before he was a big news guy. He was a VJ, like a video jock. Here's J.D. Roberts with the hair. Yeah, I remember him as J.D. Roberts, one of the first VJs on Canada's Much Music channel. There he is. Yes. And then, like a lot of other Canuckistanians, he also became an immigrant to the U.S. of A. And now, just like Peter Jennings, for those of you who don't remember, Peter Jennings, ABC News, he was a Canadian big-time anchor on the U.S. side of the border. I don't know if there's J.D. Roberts there again on Much Music. Look at the hair. Anyway, he's a documented immigrant at this point, and I think maybe even a U.S. citizen. I don't know. He's been there long enough. Certainly has made a name for himself in broadcasting, extremely successful. But he got his start in Canada. And then he moved on, started doing some news stuff in Canada, and then wasn't long, and he was scooped up by a U.S. network, and there he sits today. But he got it all. He started it all in Canada. With the hair, immigrant. Superman, immigrant. People criticizing that, I don't get it. Why people so upset about that? Obviously, the guy came from Krypton. He's an immigrant. And he didn't enter the country legally. Like, how do you even apply for a green card to work? What's your country of origin? Krypton. I wonder if the United States has any provisions for aliens who seek citizenship. Well, we shall see. It is about protecting the little guy, though, isn't it? Comes right down to it. Just, excuse me, this is just reminds me of a story, and I hope I'm not speaking out of school here, Dad, but I learned something a long time ago when I was a very, very, very young boy. My brothers were considerably older than me. I don't think I've told this story before. But my oldest brother, teenager at the time, and I was just a little kid. So I hope I remember this story correctly. My brother came home one night, and he had a friend with him. His name was Neil. And I was in bed, but I wasn't asleep, and I could hear this. And Neil had a problem at his house, and he needed a place to stay. And as I remember the story, Neil, his dad had been beating him, and he needed a safe place to go. And so my brother said, "Will you come home with me?" And so came home, and I remember I could hear everything going on in the kitchen. I was in bed. And there was a long conversation. I don't remember all the details, but my dad said, yeah, you can stay here, Neil. And my parents made up a room, like a place for him to stay down in the basement. And Neil ended up staying with us, like living with us for a while. And I never knew all the details because I was so young. So I never was told everything that happened, but I heard enough in the background conversations to know that Neil was somebody who just needed a helping hand, needed a safe place to go. And my dad provided that for him. Neil was a really nice kid. To me, he was like an adult because he was so much older, and Neil became a friend. And I remember Neil one day took me on the bus, and we went downtown, and we did a little walking around and a little bit of shopping. He bought me lunch. I don't remember how he got the money. I don't know what he was doing. I don't remember all of the details, but he took care of me that day, and we had a fun day, and he kept me safe. And I was very little, and he let me hang out with him for the day, and we had a great day. That sticks in my mind. Just me and Neil downtown in London, Ontario. And my dad gave Neil a safe place. And I got to tell you, that taught me a lesson. A lesson about respect, about giving people a hand up when they need it, about protecting the little guy. Yeah. My dad. There was a little bit of Superman in my dad. I think we all need to try and be a little bit more like Superman. And I'm going to go see that damn movie. I don't care what the critics say. It's got a dog in it. I got a dog too. And I love him. And I'm going to go walk him right now. Cosmo, take it away. Free dog. See you guys back here. 7 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow night. On the flip side.
I heard old Cosmo howling last night up on the hill where the moon shines so bright. He was singing a tune, lonesome dogs cry about freedom, running and touching the sky. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. Cosmo's got them paws that just itch to roam. He's chasing his dreams, he's far from home. With a heart full of love and a spirit so free, he's living his life wild and carefree. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard of the blur. Cosmo's on a journey, he's got no chains. He's running through fields, breaking all the lanes. Now the night's getting cold and the sky's turning gray, but Cosmo's still out there, he's miles away. He's not looking back, he's got his path to tread. With every step, he's leaving his bed. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. So if you're feeling lost, just think of Cosmo's run. Remember his spirit, his freedom, his fun. And maybe one day, when you're feeling alone, you'll find your own freedom and let your spirit go. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. In his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard of a blur. A heart full of love and a spirit so free. He's living his life wild and carefree. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard of blur. Cosmo's on a journey, he's got no chains. He's running through fields, breaking all the lanes.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.